To give you as an introduction, Allah Azza wa Jalla, for instance, talks about the value of human life. And He says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. This is actually a continuity and even I would argue a perfection of the biblical narrative of an eye for an eye. Allah says in fair retribution, qisas, in taking fair retribution, there is life. Now let me help you understand what that is first. Qisas is one of three things. If somebody is murdered, if somebody's been unjustly killed, then the family of the victim, this is important now, not the court and not the police and not a government, but the family of the victim. After the authorities have identified the culprit, the murderer, and after the case has been made and the investigation is done, what should happen with this criminal, the murderer? The decision of what should happen with the murderer is not given to the judge. It's not given to the Constitution. It's not given to the courts. It's not given to the lawyers. There are no deals made. Well, if this one gives us some other information, we'll go easy on his sentencing. Or if this one, it's his first offense. Or this one, it's not so bad. Or this one's a high-profile figure. Or whatever else. You don't look at other considerations. When it comes to the victim of murder, then their family, after the courts have done their due process and diligence, after justice has been established, which is what the khutbah is going to be about today. But let's assume that justice is done, and a fair trial is done, and now the murderer is known. What should happen? The family of the victim is called. Their loved ones are called. And then they're asked, you have three options. You can ask for this person's life, just like they took a life of your loved one. You could ask them to receive the death penalty. That's one option. Another option is that you can actually, what you would call in modern parlance, sue them. You should pay a fidya or a diya for them. In other words, what's called blood money in Sharia terms, the one they killed was a source of livelihood in the family, they were a source of goodness. So the idea that, one, you can call for the death of the murderer, and the family has the right to ask. The family also has the right to ask for financial compensation. They have the right to ask that I want to sue this person for X amount of money. The third is the family also has the right to forgive. They can actually forgive too. And all three of these fall largely under the idea of qisas, the idea of retribution being handed to the right people, the people who actually deserve that justice be served. How many times has a murder been committed? Doesn't matter who committed the murder. And the judgment has been passed. But even after the judgment has been passed, this person is released after 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And the family members are now giving interviews on television saying, we don't feel like justice was served. We don't feel like he paid for his crimes. We feel like we were shortchanged. Justice is actually truly not about a constitution. It's about the victims. It's about victims receiving their right. It's about victims at least getting to feel that they had a say in the wrong that was done to them. So we are living now in a worldwide system where in the vast majority of cases, not only is going to court a major difficulty and hurdle and really something draining and almost death, a cancer to a family, that they have to drag themselves to court day after day after day, losing even more livelihood that they were making to begin with. Not to mention on top of that, paying hundreds of dollars an hour to a lawyer in hopes of getting justice, which in and of itself is an injustice. So you have mechanisms in place now that keep people that are actually in the most need of justice the least likely to receive any justice. That's what, and ironically, we call it the justice system, where the people who can pay for the most expensive lawyers are the most likely to win. And the people who can't even afford going to court are going to be left behind in the dust. They're just going to give crying interviews on TV and people are going to forget about them. And they're only on TV because it's sensational news, not because anybody cares. That's what it's become. And we've become accustomed to this entire notion, And we've become, on top of that, society has become so individualistic that, other than passing news and passing sound bites on the news, we don't really care until it's something that hits us or our family. And then we're offended and shocked that nobody else cares, even though we ourselves were in the same exact sentiment before. This justice doesn't affect one faith community. It doesn't affect Christians or Jews or Muslims or Hindus or atheists or whoever. Justice affects everybody in society. It has ripple effects on everyone in society.